everybody. Welcome everyone to the second part of the lecture of wireless security course. So now we have explained the main properties and main functionalities of the layers, starting from application to the physical and their importance, and what are the protocols happening at each layer. Now having explained all these things, let's just have a look at the requirements of the security in the wireless networks. So the requirements can be classified. There are many requirements, but let's just take the most important, the critical ones. And here we have 4. We will list 5. So the first requirement when you are in a wireless network, you want to ensure authenticity, confidentiality, integrity, availability, and the privacy. Now, why privacy is being missed here? Because usually companies and they don't like to talk about privacy because they want to know you and they want to know what you are doing on the internet or in your phone or in your mobile. So nobody talks about privacy. Usually, for example, Google Chrome never talks about privacy. Facebook never talks about privacy. But for example, Mozilla Firefox or Brave Brave browser, I don't know if you have used it before or not. So those are privacy-focused browsers. So they care too much about the privacy of the users. They are too much emphasizing on this, and they want they want the user to browse the internet without being monitored or being tracked of what they are doing actually on the internet. So now we explain the security requirements as follows. Authenticity is the first requirement, and it's used and specialized to differentiate authorized users from unauthorized users. So this is the key responsibility of the requirement related to authenticity. You want to differentiate between the authorized users who are allowed to access your network and the non-authorized users who are not allowed to access your network. If unauthorized users are able to access your network, then you will end up having problems. So you want to make sure that the transmitter is talking to the right user and the user is talking to the right base station. In 2G, we had downlink authentication. I mean, the base station can authenticate the user, but the user cannot authenticate the base station. In 4G and 5G, we improved this, and we have now 2 authentication, downlink and uplink. The user authenticates the base station that this is the right base station, and not only the base station authenticates the user that this is the right user to talk with. And there are specific techniques and methods to achieve this. In Wi-Fi, the methods are different from the methods used in 2G, 3G, 4G, because different standards are developing these 2 technologies. Wi-Fi, we have IEEE backing it, and 3G, 4G, 2G, and 5G, we have 3GPP backing them. And if common attacks happening on the authenticity related requirement are the following. You have, if you cannot authenticate your user or the user cannot authenticate the base station, you will end up in attacks like spoofing, impersonating, mimicking, disguising, imitating. All these kind of attacks are basically an authenticated user presents itself to the network as if it was authenticated, and it starts receiving and communicating with the data and receiving information that's not relevant to him or her. So the second requirement is confidentiality, and usually this requirement deals with the process of making sure that the data is just received by the intended users, can be accessed only by intended users, not anybody else. And this example of attacks happening at this on this requirement is eavesdropping, snooping, spying, overhearing. All these are concentrating on hearing the communication happening between the transmitter and receiver. And it's very problematic in wireless networks, because in wireless networks, you just send your data through the air and everybody can hear it, can listen to it. And if the eavesdropper was able to capture this data using devices like vector network analyzer and then get it and analyze it, he can be able to uncover the message that was even encrypted between the transmitter and receiver. So this is for the wireless. What about wired networks? So what tools can you use to overhear and eavesdrop the communication between the transmitter and receiver? And how do we overcome it? We have the Wireshark tool. Have you ever installed this software on your PC? You just run this software, install it on your PC, and if you are in a network, let's say Wi-Fi network, and there are 100 users connected to that network, you can overhear and eavesdrop and listen to the communication, the packets, their details. In this software shows you everything being communicated over that network. Imagine you are seeing the traffic of your friend, for anybody who's connected to that. You don't need to look at his phone or what's there or what he's sending or texting or browsing. You just can install that software called Wireshark and get the data. You will be able to see the data how it's working. But if you are not good in networks, you will not be able to understand anything from the data, because the data, we call it raw data, is not structured and beautifully explained to you and presented to you the way you browse the internet or you browse the websites. Only experts can understand what's going on. And if the website is using SSL, usually the data will be encrypted, and to get the data, you need to be using some mechanism and methods that can hack and like decrypt those encryption methods, especially if the encryption is weak. You can easily decrypt it with some sophisticated, those gaming powerful computer that can quickly decrypt the data, and you can really learn and know about everything going on between the user using the Wi-Fi and the end website, whatever that website is. So you have two tools. You have in wireless, the hacking is really much easier than wired. In wireless, because of the fact that you are open to the environment and the signal is there in the environment. But in wired networks, your signal is confined within a cable, and you can only hear like, for example, you are connected to a router or switch, you can hear the communication, the link, everything connected to the switch, but you cannot go beyond that, especially when you use Wireshark or when you want to analyze the traffic. Now, this is the confidentiality part. The integrity part, specialized and used to guarantee the accuracy of the transmitted information without any falsification. I want to make sure that the user who sent me or transmits his data to the base station, I want to make sure that nobody in the middle manipulated this data or with something else and claimed that this data came from this user. That's a very bad attack. This attack, we call these kind of attacks, we call them data modification. Another attack called message injection. You inject message to the already existing messages and you manipulate the data. False reporting. Also man in the middle attack. Man in the middle attack is kind of eavesdropping, but not really, because it also does something at the beginning so that it can fake the user and fake that the base station. It fakes basically the transmitter and receiver by using their MAC addresses. It uses first Wireshark, gets the MAC addresses, then he authenticates with the user with the MAC address of the base station, authenticate with the base station with the MAC address of the user, and then link them through, link their connection through him. So basically, when the user wants to talk to the base station, starts sending his data to the man in the middle person or computer, and then the man in the middle can forward that data, can listen to it, see it, and then analyze it and forward it. And at that point, you can inject something, you can do some manipulate the data, you can fake the data. And the same he does with the base station. He just also authenticate with it using the MAC address of the user, and the base station starts communicating with it as if it is the authentic user, and he just becomes the master. Of course, like this happens, there is no actually solid defense technique against these kind of attacks. Although big companies they have the capabilities and financial capabilities to build softwares and mechanisms to stop this and firewalls. But like for normal people, this is real. Usually, it's not the case. I mean, it depends on the level of your importance. If you are a very important human, you will find people who can help you defend yourself and secure yourself properly. So not everybody will be interested in hacking Abawa, for example. He's always, what are we gonna expect from Abawa? You just have a thesis working on it and few papers trying to finish, never finishes them. Few papers getting always rejected. So he's not working on so big important things that can affect the globe. But if it was something else, of course, they will be interested in really hacking that person and knowing the data, because any leak or hack, one of the reasons for hacking is they take the information and then they threaten. If you want it back, you have to pay this much money. Those bad hackers. You don't want to be among those hackers, of course. You are like we train you to be a white hacker or white security defender. Understand things, understand the security, the breaches, the attacks, how to defend them, how to tackle them, so that you can defend your country, you can defend your army, your people, your data. Okay, this is the reason why we teach you this, not to do harm to people or do something bad. This is not the way at all. Always use it for good purpose. Anything can be used for good or bad. So the internet itself is not bad, but it can be used badly. It can be used for good purposes as well. So the fourth requirement is availability. So availability is specified to make sure that the authorized user can always have access to the wireless network resources anytime, anywhere, whenever they request it. So basically, what does this mean? This means that when the user requests a web page from the server should be ready to offer it for the user. If the server is so busy because of the traffic, then we call the server resources are being consumed, are being exhausted. The server resources, when we say resources, we mean memory, we mean CPU, we mean power, we mean all these things that are responsible for making the server capable of serving the user. The same with base station. When you go to the base station, the base station has also limited resources. What are these resources? The time and the frequency which the base station assigns to the user so that the user can pass over them. If the network is so congested, let's say we are in a stadium and you have a football match and there are thousands of people, so then all the wireless networks, the normal existing wireless networks, usually go under this attack. We call it. It becomes like jamming attack. It becomes like there are not enough resources. All the resources are consumed. So the way they solve it, they bring mobile base stations to cover more users and to balance the load. Anyway, the key thing here is to make sure that your network is always available to your users, and the hacker can always be interested in making your network not available. And this attack can Yes.
We can't hear you properly, sir.
This attack can happen at all the layers. It can happen at the application, at the session, at the transport, at the physical layer, whatever, MAC layer, all these can this attack can happen to them. So, for example, at the physical layer, you can generate a harmful signal that can interfere with other user signals, and then you will not be able to decode your signal successfully. At the application layer, you have denial of service attacks as well that consumes the resources of the server. So those are the main requirements. In addition to that, privacy. Under this, if I ask you in the exam, what are the key 5 requirements of maintaining secure communication and satisfying the security of a user, you tell me authenticity, confidentiality, integrity, availability, and then privacy. And then we gave you example on all these things. Now we should go to all these layers one by one now, considering and discuss with each other and talk about the security threats and attacks and vulnerabilities in wireless networks based on the OSI model. So we will adopt this model, just 5 layers. We don't want to confuse you with so many layers and try to distinguish exactly where each and everything happens. So you have the application, the transport, the network, the map, medium, and physical. And now let's move and talk about the attacks happening at the physical layer. The main attacks happening at the physical layers are eavesdropping and jamming. Jamming belongs to denial of service attack, kind of denial, because when you cause jamming to the network will not be able to offer any more resources to the users. So the concept of jamming is interrupting the legitimate transmission in your network, whether it's coming from the user or it's coming from the base station. Eavesdropping is basically passively hearing and spying with the communication between the transmitter and receiver.
Professor?
So in a wireless, yes.
We can't hear you. It's orientation. Audio problem.